Just ahead on CTV News.
She's the county's top prosecutor, but now she's seeking a new job as the next leader of Prince George's. I'm Katara Jones. I'll tell you all about her coming up on CTV News.
Plus, challenges for the Senate as they head into a new session. And Simon Buggs brings us our Wednesday sports page. Those stories and more on CTV News, starting now.
Good evening. This is CTV News for December 18th. I'm Byron Scott.
And I'm Michaela News. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, the race to be the next leader of Prince George's is heating up.
Aisha Braveboy filed her candidacy today to run in the special election that will determine the next top leader of the county. Kateri Jones has our story.
In front of a packed crowd of supporters in Lanham, Aisha Braveboy makes it official. She's running to be the next county executive of Prince George's County.
And over the next 77 days, I will humbly ask for you to complete your mail-in ballots and vote for me, Aisha Braveboy, to serve as your next county.
Aisha Braveboy is no stranger to Maryland politics. She served as a delegate in the Maryland General Assembly representing District 25 for 8 years, and she was elected as state's attorney back in 2018.
I will work to expand housing choices that are quality and affordable so that we can attract young professionals, growing families, and keep our retirees in the county. I will work with the federal and state delegations, and this is important to me, because we deal, unfortunately, with mental health concerns in the criminal justice system. We need a long-term mental health treatment facility here in Prince George's County.
Braveboy already has received endorsements from 3 current county council members, including Vice Chair Edward Burrows, Crystal Oriatha, and Walla Blagay.
We are fighting for the soul of Prince George's County. This is a war. And it's a war because you need leaders who have your interests. The question that I asked myself when I decided to endorse Aisha Braveboy for our next county executive, who's fighting for us when we are not watching?
This special election race was triggered when the former county executive, Angela Alsobrooks, was elected to the U.S. Senate, leaving the top seat open. Braveboy joins a crowded race with a total of 6 candidates vying to be the county's next top leader. If elected, she will have to work with the incoming Trump administration, which has already talked about cutting federal jobs. And there are about 70,000 federal workers that live in the county.
We have to work with our federal delegation to ensure that these agencies are not, number one, downsized or moved to other areas, because that will impact our local economy. We have a lot of federal government workers as well as federal government contractors living here in Prince George's County.
The special election dates are set. The special primary is on March 4th. The special general is on May 27th. Katara Jones, CTV News.
And if Braveboy wins the special election, she says it will be the circuit court judges who would appoint an interim state's attorney. And with the 2025 legislative session just weeks away, Senate President Bill Ferguson met with the media to talk about the upcoming challenges. Ferguson says the big issue looming over lawmakers is dealing with a nearly $3 billion budget deficit. Among the good news, Ferguson says the blueprint for Maryland's future is funded through fiscal year 2027. But he says lawmakers will have faced many challenges, particularly with the new administration heading into the White House.
The driving issue this upcoming session, amidst the uncertainty that we know to be the case with the incoming federal administration, will be balancing Maryland's budget in a way that keeps us competitive, but also ensures that we are investing in the priorities that Marylanders know matter. Things like healthcare and education and transportation and reducing housing costs. And so this is going to be our most important job, as it always is, in balancing the budget. And this year is going to be tough decisions. We've said everything's on the table. Number one, we have to make sure that we are living within our means and that we can invest in things in a way that is predictable and that it keeps us competitive. We are going to have to look at revenues in certain areas, because when we look at the budget overall, the gap is cannot be accomplished with cuts alone.
And Ferguson did not identify any specific cuts. Lawmakers are back in session on January 8th.
Well, a multi-million-dollar error by a state agency has caused the state's budget deficit to balloon to nearly $3 billion. The Developmental Disabilities Administration is an agency that helps to cover services for people with developmental disabilities. Lawmakers say DDA is short $350 million, but it's unclear what caused the expensive error. Officials recommend bringing agency members in for a hearing to understand what led to the deficit and how they plan to get a better handle on the budget. Meanwhile, with just days to spare to avoid a government shutdown, lawmakers on Capitol Hill approved a multi-billion-dollar spending bill that will keep the government funded through March. The measure also included two big items for our region. One is a provision that would transfer the land of the old RFK Stadium from the federal government to the District of Columbia. D.C. lawmakers are hoping to construct a new stadium on the site and lure back the Commanders. The other big item is full federal funding to rebuild the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which collapsed in March when a cargo ship collided with it. Reconstruction costs are estimated at around $2 billion. Governor Wes Moore called the collapse of the Key Bridge a national crisis.
And as we've been telling you about, the towns of Cheverly and Bladensburg are in a feud over who can annex the old Prince George's Hospital site. The plans include a $500 million mixed-use project that will go on the land. And while the towns are in a turf tug of war, the developers are weighing in. The companies Urban Atlantic and Home Team 5 have expressed, quote, very significant concerns about Bladensburg bid to annex the land, citing fiscal and visibility responsibility concerns. Both companies have been working with Cheverly officials on the redevelopment and signed a letter asking Bladensburg to rescind its annexation effort. The town of Cheverly has threatened to file a lawsuit.
Well, Prince George's police are investigating a double homicide in Forest Heights yesterday. Officers responded to shooting at the 100 block of Seneca Drive around 6 p.m. Officers found 24-year-old Brian Freeman and 21-year-old Saku Mathis suffering from gunshot wounds. They were both pronounced dead on the scene. Now, detectives are still working to find suspects and determine a motive in this case.
And in other news, investigators are still trying to determine their motive in that deadly school shooting in Wisconsin that left 3 people dead, including the 15-year-old female teenage shooting suspect. That incident erupted Monday at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. Vice President Kamala Harris commented on the shooting yesterday while at an event at Prince George's Community College.
Look, as we hold our loved ones close this holiday season, we as a nation must renew our commitment to end the horror of gun violence, both mass shootings and everyday gun violence that touches so many communities in our nation. We must end it, and we must be committed to have the courage to know that solutions are in hand. But we need elected leaders to have the courage to step up and do the right thing.
Well, 2 students who were wounded in that shooting remain in critical condition.
All right, well, you're watching CTV News. I'm Michaela Newton.
I'm Byron Scott. More news ahead. Stay tuned.
I wish people knew that when you live in a small town like mine, it's much harder to find friends with common interests, especially ones my age. I often feel really alone.
Same here. Seems like every time we finally settle somewhere, I have to pack up and move again. By the time I make a friend, a real friend, I have to say goodbye to them.
I totally get it. I live in a big city, but it can feel just as lonely. It's tough, but it gets easier.
Honestly, I totally get what you're going through. It's nice to know that you feel the same.
You enjoyed my story. I really enjoyed your story as well.
Welcome back. It was just a few months ago that a long-time fixture of Maryland politics announced his retirement. Now with a successor elected, That day is just a few weeks away.
CTV's Mariah Gillette sat down with Senator Ben Cardin to take a look back at his extensive career and to say farewell.
One of Maryland's most familiar political faces is stepping away for retirement after a nearly 60-year career in public service. Senator Ben Cardin will be retiring on January 3rd, 2025. But until then, he's continuing to meet with the Marylanders he's proudly served.
I don't want to go around a room and let you all say thank you to me, because I really want to say thank you to you all.
But after knowing him for more than 5 decades, Senator Ben Cardin's constituents can't help but show their gratitude for the work he's done fighting for Marylanders.
So, yes, we so appreciate you. Thank you for everything. Yes.
As an end to a career in public service that started in 1967, Senator Cardin has been on a farewell tour. And on this stop, he met with Prince George's County mayors and city council members who each had been touched by his work.
You've done a lot for our city of Hyattsville. So on behalf of Hyattsville, I want to wish you a very happy retirement and a very, very happy holiday season. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Whether it was passing pandemic relief bills, providing infrastructure funding, or expanding access to early cancer screenings, Cardin has saved lives across the state and country through his service. And 57 years ago, that's exactly what he set out to do.
And I had an opportunity to run for the Maryland General Assembly. I took advantage of that, and that gave me a voice for people who otherwise would not be heard to help our community. The people of Maryland have elected me 18 times, and I'm very grateful because it allowed me to do what I wanted to do, and that is to serve the public.
His career started at just 23 years old, and by the time he was 35, he became the youngest Speaker of the House of Delegates in Maryland history at the time.
My father told me when I was first elected that I was given a gift that people work their whole life and aren't able to achieve what I achieved at the age of 23, take advantage of every day. And I've tried to follow that advice. I've tried to take advantage of every year in public life, recognize that there are people that depend upon me.
Now it's time to begin again for Congress, Ben Cardin. Because for Ben, the business of serving Maryland and its people is never done.
Ascending to the U.S. House of Representatives and eventually the Senate, Cardin, a Democrat, has been known to reach across the aisle to his Republican colleagues. It's a nonpartisan attitude his aides call Cardinesque, and one that's increasingly disappeared from our current political climate.
When you work across party line, you get things done, and I think it is possible. I think it is probable that Democrats and Republicans will work together because they know that's how you get things done.
Having already served in the Senate through a first Donald Trump presidency,
I take this time to explain why I voted to convict the former president of the United States, Donald Trump.
Even hiding from rioters in the Capitol on January 6, Cardin is no stranger to the chaos that can erupt when a president is at odds with lawmakers. But Cardin hopes in his absence, Congress will stand up for the country's democratic institutions.
I hope that the Congress will recognize that they play a very important role in the checks and balances in our system. It's the legislative branch of government that determines our spending priorities and passes the laws. And it's up to the legislature to do that at times when the president doesn't want you to do certain things. You got to stand up for the institution itself. So it'll be tested during these next 4 years. So I am very hopeful that the legislative and judicial branches of government will stand up to potential abuses by the executive branch of government.
As Cardin prepares to retire this January, he'll be leaving his seat to Angela Alsobrooks, the former Prince George's County executive who was elected to replace him. Cardin says he's proud to leave his seat to her and looks forward to seeing how she and the incoming congressional class conquer challenges.
One of the reasons I decided not to seek re-election is that I thought it was important for the next generations to be able to have opportunities to serve in the United States Senate. And I think Angela Alsobrooks represents that. So I'm very proud of the fact that Marylanders elected her to take my seat in the United States Senate. There's always challenges. And the challenges of this government, of the Trump administration and Republican control of both the House and Senate will present significant challenges. But at that same opportunity, it's now you have the ability to really make a difference.
And in retirement, Cardin won't be giving up on the causes he's fought for and plans to stay engaged with the Marylanders and Americans he's proudly represented for nearly 60 years.
Well, I'm going to continue to follow my passion. I want to promote civility in our political system. I hope I can convince our educators to teach more history so their students know more history. I want to teach civic engagement. I want people to get engaged in the political process. I will continue to fight for international human rights and protect our Bay and the issues I've worked on as an elected official.
Senator Cardin says he looks forward to spending the next chapter of his life with his family and wife Myrna, who have been his biggest supporters in his political career. For CTV News, I'm Mariah Jalad. Back to you at the desk.
All right, Mariah, thanks so much for that report. Still to come on CTV News.
Changes are coming to the Metro transit system. Stay tuned.
Metro has ordered all of their employees to make a return back to office in 2025. I'm Bryce Parker. We'll have more details coming up on CTV News.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. Being present is the most important part. To be the better mirror for my son. Bro, he brings the vibes, you know what I'm saying? He brings the party no matter what. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody. And I love him to the death of me.
Well, more companies are starting to put an end to teleworking.
And as our local transit agency is following suit, CTV's Bryce Parker is in Landover with more.
So one of the campaign promises made by the upcoming presidential administration was for federal workers to make a return back to office. And here at Metro, they have ordered all of their employees to make a full return by July 2025. WMATA General Manager Randy Clark delivered the message via email that they are gearing up for a, quote, pivotal year for Metro. Before COVID, federal workers made up about 40% of Metro's commuters. They now make up less than 20% of commuters. But with the expectation that more workers will be back by the end of January, increased ridership is looming on the horizon. 2025 will also bring large events like the presidential inauguration and World Pride Day to the nation's capital, just as Metro is planning to roll out their automatic train operations. Clark also reported that about 85% of their employees have already made their return back in person. In total, WMATA employs about 13,000 people across the DMV region. And by the time the 4th of July rolls around, all of them will be back in person. Reporting in Largo, I'm Bryce Parker, CTV News.
And WMATA says it has not been influenced by other corporations and this decision has, quote, nothing to do with anyone else. Well, the county's Blue Line corridor is on the move. Final approvals have been granted for a nearly $1 billion development project in Capitol Heights. Two developer groups have received site plan approvals for two senior living buildings as part of the first phase of projects of Addison Park. The complex is a residential mixed-use development of 77.5 acres of Old Central Avenue. Addison Park is one of the many projects used to kick off revitalization of Metro's Blue Line corridor in the county. Groundbreaking expected this spring.
Well, you know the car alarm that urges you to put your seatbelt on? Well, a tech upgrade for new vehicles will now warn all passengers to buckle up. The National Highway Traffic Administration announced Monday that the rule was finalized for front and rear seat passengers. The new rule is expected to save 50 lives and prevent 5,500 injuries per year. Now, before the rule, seatbelt warnings were only required for the driver's seat. The front seat rules will go into effect starting September 1st, 2026. Rear seat rules begin September of 2027.
And are you tired of unexpected fees when you go to the checkout online? Well, the Federal Trade Commission has announced that it will soon require hotels, vacation rental platforms, and live event promoters to disclose any fees up front. The FTC says online consumers often see advertised prices online only to learn later about so-called junk fees, which could include cleaning fees, processing fees, and other extra charges. The rule is scheduled to go into effect in 120 days.
All right, well, the holidays are quickly approaching, and we spoke with some shoppers this morning who are eagerly preparing for Christmas. With just 7 days before Christmas, shoppers are coming out and lining up for last-minute shopping. Shoppers at the mall at Prince George's are opening their wallets to find the perfect gifts for their family members this holiday season.
Just coming out to grab a gift for my mom for Christmas. Some Dolce & Gabbana Devotion perfume.
I'm buying some Jimmy Choo cologne, some Issa Laurent cologne. I'm buying Donna Carrington for women. Yeah, I'm excited. Well, I have to do all the cooking and all the shopping. All they have to do is come eat and open up their gifts, enjoy their gifts. So they should be excited.
Henry Watford, the general manager of the mall at Prince George's, says the holidays are the busiest time to shop.
You know, as it draws closer to the holiday, to Christmas itself, chaos, but in a good way. A lot of festive people who are interested in getting their presents, and last-minute shoppers who are actually literally on some occasions running through the mall to grab presents.
And for retailers, the holiday is a moneymaker, something Christopher Graham says he looks forward to every year.
Sales, more sales, and to meet new people in the community. We make whipped shea butters, we sell body oils, soaps, deodorants, natural toothpaste, and incense.
So this makes like a perfect stocking stuffer.
Exactly.
And with Super Saturday on the way,
there's deals now, so don't wait.
Again, Super Saturday is this Saturday, so last-minute shoppers should take full advantage of any lasting deals.
And it's not shaping up to be a very merry holiday season for some major retailers this year. According to data from research firm CoreSite, U.S. retailers have announced more than 7,100 store closures. That's a 69% jump from the same time last year. Pharmacy closures are becoming a long-term problem, with more than 7,000 closing since 2019. Just alone this year, Walgreens closed more than 250 stores, Rite Aid 408, and CVS Health closing nearly 600 locations. The retailer hit the hardest. Family Dollar, with 677 stores, are set to close.
With the holiday season in full swing, we're spending more time indoors, which also means more chances for viruses to spread. Doctors are seeing an uptick in flu, COVID-19, RSV, and other respiratory illnesses. Now, this is typical for winter, but people with underlying health issues are especially vulnerable. Now, to protect yourself, wash your hands frequently, avoid touching your face, and if you're sick, make sure you stay home. Vaccines are also available to help prevent flu, COVID, and RSV. Meanwhile, the Maryland Department of Health has reported the first cold-related deaths of the 2024-2025 winter season. Sadly, 3 men have died, 2 in their 60s and 1 in his 30s. 2 of the deaths happened in Baltimore City, and the other was in Baltimore County. Now, the first death was reported on November 23rd, with the other 2 coming in on December 2nd. The MDH is urging individuals to take precautions from cold-related illnesses, and Maryland residents in need of warming centers are urged to contact their local health department. And Simon Buggs is here with our Wednesday sports page.
So, Simon, what's shaking in sports?
Well, guys, it was a great night for high school basketball. I have some awesome highlights on the way. Stay right there, sports fans. Trust me, you'll want to see this. Be right back.
We grew up together. We believed in something bigger than ourselves. The military took me to one side of the world and her to the other. And even though she was always the strong one, when we caught up years later, I found out she had fallen on some hard times. It was her call to make, but doing it together made all the difference.
When I see homeless vets on my route, I always think to myself, we both swore an oath to protect our way of life, to protect our community. With VA's hotline for homeless vets, I can get them connected with help to get them back on their feet again.
VA's round-the-clock hotline can put veterans who are homeless in touch with the resources and support they earned through their military service. You have the power to help a veteran facing homelessness. Go to va.gov/homeless to print your walled cards. For veterans who are homeless or on the brink of homelessness, call 877-424-3838.
What's up, sports fans? I've got a great sports page lined up for you today. Let's get right to it. It was an exciting matchup last night as the Bowie High School boys basketball squad looked to keep their winning streak alive as they hosted Eleanor Roosevelt. The Bulldogs were 2-0 going into last night's game. I talked to head coach Tremaine Price ahead of the matchup, and he told me what he wanted to see from his players to send the Raiders back to Greenbelt with an L.
Like we always talk about is doing the big little things, getting on the floor, taking charges, and doing all the little things that we need to do in order to get a W. Versus our rival, plays and all those things normally go out the window, and it's about guts.
The first quarter started off nip and tuck as neither the Bulldogs or Raiders could really separate themselves from each other. But as the quarter went on, shots from Roosevelt like this putback layup from Benai Nwosu and this tray ball made by Abubakar Sila as Kamali Burns closed out on him helped the Raiders be up 19-10 after the first. And in the second, Roosevelt kept Bowie at bay, and this nice finish inside through traffic from Dakari Tyler and Nwosu, who said, "Get that out of here with this block," helped the Raiders go into halftime with a double-digit lead, being up 28-18. But in the third quarter, the Bulldogs began to close the gap. This sweet rejection from Keon Council, this turnover created by DeMarcus Barnes, which created a fast break opportunity for Tremaine Riles, who converted on this layup, and more turnovers from the Raiders helped Bowie only be down single digits now going into the fourth, 34-29. And in the fourth, the Bulldogs were within striking distance throughout, and this layup from Barnes brought the Bulldogs to within 1 point of Roosevelt as they were now down 42-41. And soon after, Riles was fouled, and he went to the free throw line and knocked both shots down, and Bowie was now up 43-42 on Roosevelt. Nwosu had an opportunity to tie or go up in the game with some free throws of his own, but he bricked both of them and kept the Raiders' score at 42. And the Bulldogs hung on to beat the Raiders 45-42. Bowie remains undefeated on the season at 3-0. There was more high school hoops around the county as Lowell spanked Bladensburg 81-47, High Point fell to Parkdale 63-43, and finally Frederick Douglass got a dub on the road, beating Central 82-56. In other news, congratulations to former Terps wide receiver Ty Felton for being named an AP second team All-American. Felton was one of the bright spots on the Maryland team that went 4-8. And in 2024, the Virginia native led the Big Ten in receptions with 96 and receiving yards with 1,124. He is Maryland's first AP All-American since kicker Brad Craddock in 2014. Congratulations, Ty, on a great season. Felton will be in action again on February 1st as he will take part in the Reese's Senior Bowl. And in NHL news, the Washington Capitals lost again, this time to the Chicago Blackhawks last night, 3-2. The Caps are now 21-8-2, and they'll take the ice next against the Carolina Hurricanes at Capital One Arena on Friday. And that is your Wednesday sports page.
Okay, thank you, Simon.
No problem.
Let's get a check now on our 3-day weather forecast tonight. We'll have some rain and fog before 11 p.m. Tomorrow, it's going to be sunny with a high of 45 degrees. Friday, mostly cloudy, and there is a 30% chance of rain in the afternoon. And on Saturday, mostly sunny with a high of 38 and a low of 20.
And for our community calendar this Friday, the Herbert W. Wells Ice Rink is hosting an Ugly Sweater holiday skate. So show off your holiday spirit as you skate to the music of the holiday. This event takes place from 9:30 to 11:30. Free skate rental is available for anyone who wears an ugly sweater. But for more information, contact 301-277-3717.
And that's our news for tonight. I'm Byron Scott. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Michaela Noon. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.